Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stefan. I'm a customer success manager, and I will be talking you through the content creation part of Apostle today. We will be looking at some advanced new features, and I will be guiding you step by step through creating content. I already created a post, and I want to start by explaining the best way to use our variations module. So I created a post with some text and an image, and what you can do in a postal is that you can create different variants of posts. So if I hover over the add variant, I have a couple of options here. So I can say, okay, I want to copy the current variant, for example, which will give me a copy of the post I just created, which I can entirely change to a brand new post, actually. So I can change the text, I can change the images, I can make a new variation of the post that I am creating. So this is a really important part because you don't want your team to share the exact same post. So that's why we built the different variations, which allows you to create different versions of posts for different brand ambassadors in your team. Um, the way I just showed you is the manual way, which means that you have to edit the post by yourself. So create an entirely new text, which may be a little bit more time consuming. So if you have the time, I would definitely encourage you to do so. But I can also imagine that you don't have time to write, for example, 4, 5, 6 different versions of a post for different people to share. So that's why we created a way to also let AI help you here. So what you can do is hover over the add variant and then click variations with AI. And what will happen is that an AI engine will create new variations of your post based on the first post that you have created. So it's really important that you create a base post and then let AI do the rest and help you to create new variations of these posts. So you can see it now created a couple of new versions. And if I click through these versions, you can see that the text has been changed. You can still use emojis, you can still use hashtags. It will not differentiate between those hashtags or icons, for example, or emojis. Um, it will only change the text, so it's really important. So we can see you have different variations of text. Of course, it still is an AI engine, which I would like to stress that please check the posts before sending them to your team. Um, it changes up the text, maybe use a little bit different words, for example. But it's always important to do a final check before sending it to your team. So it's really important to do it in this way and really help your team by not sharing the exact same post on the exact same time with the exact same image as well. Um, if you decide to use the variations in step 2, what I will show you later on in this webinar, you can also randomly distribute these posts among your brand ambassador team. So let's say I have now 7 or 8 variations, then I can say, okay, Apostle, I now want you to randomly distribute these posts among the people that I have in my team. So everyone will receive a different version of the post that I just created. So it's a really great way to create more variations and to make sure not everyone is sharing the exact same post by changing your text in the variation. So this is a textual variation. Um, Something that we also have in the variation part is automatic translations. So as you can see, I created different versions of an English post now. But let's say we also have a couple of Dutch colleagues, for example. I also want a Dutch version of this post. Then I can say, okay, help me to translate this one to Dutch. And as you can see, I now created a translated post with just one click. Um, the same applies here. Always check your post before sending it. If you're not a native Dutch speaker, then let someone that is a native Dutch speaker check the post before sending it to your team. It's a Google Translate based engine. So you can add multiple languages if you want to. We have Dutch, English, French as like the most used languages, but you can also click other language and then you will have basically all of the languages to your at your disposal. So really helpful way to use the variations in this way as well. So that's 2 ways of using variations. I will delete a couple in the meantime. Another way to use variations, for example, is by creating variations per platform, which means that, for example, let's say I have a post for Facebook. I can create a Facebook version, but I also want to share a post to Instagram, for example. And I might want to change the post on Instagram a little bit more, maybe add a couple of extra hashtags. I don't want to add a link, for example, to Instagram because they're not clickable. And I want to refer to link in bio, for example. So I create a different version for Instagram, and I name this one as well to Instagram. And I also create a different one for LinkedIn. So this is also a way to use the variations and create different versions of posts for the different platforms that you have connected in the system, for example. Um, this is mostly really helpful for business pages because in terms of colleagues, you can only schedule one variant for a personal page for a colleague. So I would recommend only using this if you want to make different versions of posts for your business pages. And then I would go for one variant, for example, LinkedIn, to send it to the colleagues for them to share on their LinkedIn accounts. Um, if you decide to use variations in this way, then also make sure that you have uh, selected the right platforms on the platforms here below. You can change the platforms per variant. So that means if I have a version for LinkedIn, then I don't want Facebook and Instagram here. I only want LinkedIn. So in this way, this variant, if I schedule it for my colleagues, will only be able to share to LinkedIn and not to the other platforms. So that's a really easy way to use the variations as well. Um, if you decide to make variations specifically for specific brand ambassadors in your team, you can also name them on the specific person, of course. So I can say this one is, for example, for Stefan. Then I know while selecting the people in the next step that, okay, this version was meant for Stefan, and I will schedule this version only for Stefan in this case. So just to give you an overview of the different ways of using variations to your advantage. And what I do want to stress is what I just showed you is textual variations. And we can do the same trick with images. So if you decide to create multiple variations and you have also a post with multiple images, for example, you can also use a different image in every variation. So let's say the first one is for Facebook. Um, and in the second one for Instagram, I want to use a different photo, for example. So I just delete this one and then I select a new, more personal photo, for example. So I still have the same post. I can still bulk schedule it at the same time, but this one will have a different text and also a different image. Um, if you decide not to use it for the different platforms, just to create the variations for multiple people to share only on LinkedIn, for example, it works the same way. So you can still create a different image for variant one, a different image for variant two, and make sure not everyone is sharing the exact same post. So it's really important to do it in that way. If you have multiple images for your post, I would always recommend to use the different images in the different variations to make sure not everyone is sharing the same post. If we then scroll down, we have a couple of other options when it comes to images. So let's say I want to have a post with multiple images, for example. Then I delete this one and I select 3 of the images that I have uploaded to my system and I click use files. And as you can see, you have 3 different options here. So the first one is share as multiple images, which basically means that you are sharing a gallery post. If I click this one, it will look a little bit like this on LinkedIn and Facebook, for example. I can still click on the individual images and they will then pop up. For Instagram, you get a slider because you can only see one image at the same time, and then you slide to the left to see the other images as well. So that's the first option that we have if you want to share multiple images. Another way to go is to again select the 3 images and then go for option 2, which basically creates a different variation based on the images that I have selected. So I selected 3 images now, which will create 3 variations, and all of them will have one of the 3 images connected to it. So let's say you don't have your text yet, but you do have 3 images. You can start in this way and then create a different text for the different variations to make sure every post has different text and also a different image to it. So that could also be an option for you. And the final option that we have is that you can ask your brand ambassador to choose which image they want to use. So if I click this one, then I get a slider in my screen, which your team will also have in the app or in their mail, of course. And they can slide through the 3 images that I uploaded, and they can decide, okay, which of these images do I want to use in this specific post. So this is not sharing multiple images. This is sharing one of the 3 images. So the one that's open, so let's say I leave it at this one in the app or in my email, then it will send this image along with my post. So this is more asking your team to diversify your posts. If you want to have the control yourself, then you create the different variations with the images and then send the different variations to the different people. So those are the options that we have to create variations based on text, but also based on images. So I would really recommend you to start using this if you haven't yet. Make sure you have multiple images for every post. Make sure you differ a little bit in the text to make sure not everyone is sharing the exact same post. Another thing you can do before we move over to sharing links is that you can connect topics to a specific post, which means that you can add your content strategy in our system, which you can do in the left menu bar under strategy. And basically what you can do there is that you can add like main topics that you want to communicate about. So I can show you a couple examples that we have here. So we have, for example, third-party content, which is just industry news or blogs or whatever. We have podcast, science, our product, of course, but also event content or webinars or personal content, team building activities, and so forth. So you can create these in the strategy overview and then add them to your post. And the idea behind this is that you can label every post that you create based on one of these topics. And the system will register how many posts you shared on these different topics. And then you can see also in your insights later on. So, okay, I created, for example, 4 posts this month on webinars, 4 posts on a staff party, but none about a new employee, for example. So then you can know for the next month, okay, maybe we need to focus on this topic a little bit more, or maybe we need to focus on our thought leadership content to make sure you can maintain your strategy and constantly reminded of the topics that you want to communicate about. So setting it up is really easy. So just go to the strategy part, add your topics, and they will be automatically added to the topic view in your composer. And then it's basically just selecting, okay, this one is about our new insights, for example. So I will select our product label here. So that's how easy it is, and it will automatically register in your insights as soon as I schedule this post for my team. So I would really use this if you're not using it right now, because it really gives you insights on which types of posts you are creating and which topics you are highlighting, and maybe not highlighting too much, to make sure you're creating posts about all of the topics that you actually want to create posts about as well. So that's in terms of topics. So let's review use variations, textual variations, but also image variations, and use the strategy part to your advantage to know which topics that you are communicating about, and also let your team know which topics you are communicating about. In the next step, I want to show you a little bit more options about sharing links. And I will move to a new tab because I already created a new post with a link here. So this is one of our blogs, for example, with a link, and I added the link to the composer. And as you can see, as soon as you start adding links to our create post overview, it will automatically create a link block. If you want to, you can then delete the link from the text because you already created a link block, and the link will stay in the link block and it will be clickable once I share it to Facebook or LinkedIn, for example. However, if I want to make changes to my link block, I have to do it first. So I will not remove the link from my post and click the edit button here. If I click the edit button, I have a couple of options. So I get a pop-up screen, so I can change the meta title, which is basically the title of your link block, and also the meta description. I do need to stress that the meta description is not really shown on many of the platforms, so I would not change it if I were you, but you can if you want to. Um, the most important part here is that you can change the image of your link block. So let's say I really don't like this image, or maybe I'm sharing an external link and I don't have influence on which image our system will gather, for example. Then I can change the image to one of the images that I uploaded in my system. So I click the edit button and I go for example, this photo and add it to the system. I can then save, and as you can see now, the image has been changed. Something that's really important here is that this is only possible for LinkedIn. Okay, so you can see already the different warnings for Facebook and Instagram here. On Instagram, you cannot even share a link block, so that's also not possible. But for Facebook, uh, they are really battling their fake news. So on Facebook, this is not possible anymore. It will always, if I share this to Facebook, it will just show the original image that was gathered with the link. Okay, so it's only possible for LinkedIn to make changes to the images. If we go back to adding the links, what I can also do is shorten the links and make sure I will track my link clicks. So what will happen is if I select this option, then it will create a parcel link, which will basically allow you to also track the clicks in our system. So you get, it kind of works the same as Bitly. I think you probably know Bitly. But you will get a postal short link, and then you can track the clicks in your system. It will be automatically tracked in the insights. So it could be really helpful to see, okay, how many people are clicking on the links that we are sharing through our brand ambassador network, for example. So really important if you want to know it. If you don't want to use a postal short links, you can also do it with Bitly, of course. We also have a Bitly integration available in the team settings, for example. If you want to get more insights, then you can also start using UTM codes. So we have a UTM code builder in our system, so you can click this option so you can get a UTM builder, or you can just find one on Google, whatever floats your boat. Or you can just directly paste the link with the UTM code already in a postal, which will give you the same option, of course. I would really recommend using an apostle UTM code, because then you can see in your Google Analytics how many traffic is gathered from the post that you are sending through your brand ambassador team. So most of our clients use a LinkedIn UTM, but also an apostle UTM to see the traffic on their website based on the post that we are sending through our brand ambassador team. So you can do it manually per link, or you can create a preset. So you can create presets in your team settings. So if you start using a UTM code and you use the same one, or you always use the same one, then you can just use a preset, and then it will automatically fill in your UTM code here. So I would really recommend using this. If you want to go one step further, we also have a personalized UTM code option here. And basically, if I click this checkbox, what will happen is that we will add a postal UTM, which will add the member ID or the page ID of the person or page sharing in a postal. So every user in a postal has their own member ID. And I will add the member ID to my link, which means that if I go to Google Analytics and I find my member ID in a postal, I can see how many traffic is coming from this specific user. You can download the member IDs from the member overview. If you download the member overview, then you will see the user IDs for every individual brand ambassador. And you can use those member IDs to search in Google Analytics and see how well an individual, for example, is performing. It will take you some time because you need to check on an individual level. But if you want to use it, then it would be really, I think, give you great insights on how many traffic is coming from a specific person in this case. So really helpful to do it in that way. But do note, it will take you some time, and you will need to click this one to add the UTM. It now says one, but it will automatically generate the user ID for the specific member. So if I schedule this post for all of my team, then let's say one of my colleagues is sharing, it will automatically fill in the member ID of that specific colleague. So you don't have to schedule one by one. You can just schedule it all at the same time, of course. So really a helpful way of getting more insights on traffic and making sure your posts are doing what you expect them to do. So those are the options that we have based on sharing links. So just to review, you can change the meta title, you can change the images, but only for LinkedIn. You can use our link shortener to track the clicks in our system. If you don't want to use the postal link shortener, you can use a bit.ly. And you can add UTM codes, use the presets if you want to, or do it manually. And if you want to go really deep, you can use the user or page ID as UTM code. So just to give you some insights on how the sharing with links works, use it to your advantage and really personalize your links as much as possible to get the most insights also from your Google Analytics view, of course. All right, so those were the most important steps in step one, so creating your post. And so now we'll move to step two, and I will create a new variant as well. And then we'll move over to step two. So step two basically is one of the most easy steps in this process. So basically it's just selecting the people that you want to schedule this post for. Sorry. If you have multiple images, multiple variants, sorry, you can also randomly distribute the post over the multiple variants. So let's say I do click select all here, then the system will automatically divide the people I have selected here over the two variants that I have created. So let's say I use the AI feature I explained about earlier, then it would be really helpful to use this random one, because then it will randomly distribute over all of the variations that we created. I now only have two, so I want to do it manually. So then I click the variant one, for example, and then I select Casa and Eva. And for variant two, I want to schedule it for yours and Ilse and Koen. So this is an easy way of dividing the variants over multiple people. I would say if I have a lot of variants, always use a random one. If I just have a couple, then I would just do it manually. If you have different languages, for example, which we also discussed, right? So then you can use variant one, for example, for Dutch people, variant two for the English people. And that's where you can use the groups. So we have a group filter here. So you can filter based on, these are the groups that we have, for example, location Amsterdam, location Eindhoven. And I only want to schedule this post for the people that are working in Amsterdam, for example. So I filter on Amsterdam, and then I only get the people from Amsterdam, and then I can click select all, for example, and send it to these 7 people. I can do the same trick with variant 2, but I want to send variant 2, for example, not to Amsterdam, but to Eindhoven, and I have the same options here. So this is an easy way to use the groups to your advantage. You can create the groups in the left menu bar. I just create a group, add people to the group, and then you can use the filtering here on step 2 in your composer. Another option that you have is to filter based on your strategy topics. So you created your strategy topics also in the left menu bar. And what you can do is that you can subscribe specific people to a content strategy topic. So let's say, for example, you have an HR team and you want them, for example, to share behind the scenes at the office, staff parties, new employees. So you can subscribe them to a specific team based on the HR department. For example, we have our CEO. We want to share thought leadership content with him, so we subscribe him to the thought leadership content topic. So filtering based on that kind of works the same way as filtering on groups. So you have the topics on the right-hand side. So let's say I want to filter on at the office. Then I only get the people that are subscribed to that specific topic, and I can select them as well. So this is a great way to use the filtering as well. We always advise to use the groups on a more personal level. So where is someone working, what's someone's job title, what's someone's background, for example. And use the topics more on a content level. So which types of content does this person like to share? And then subscribe them to it. Or they can use our mobile app and you can go to the settings and they can subscribe to specific topics themselves as well. So there's kind of 2 ways to go there. In most cases, we see that the admin subscribes them to specific topics, for example. So great ways to use the filtering, and also make sure that not everyone is always sharing all of the posts. really look at the groups, use the topics, and make sure not everyone is sharing the exact same post. Use the variations with images, and also use the variations with groups and topics. Something that's important is that you need to select always someone per variant. So I will select Cas and Koen now for this one. And then we'll move to step 3, okay? Step 3 is your final step. And in step 3, you'll decide the date of your post. So we have 3 options here. So the default option is now, which basically means all of the posts will be sent to everyone right now. If someone shares it, it will be posted right away. You can also schedule in the future using the single date option, which basically means that you can select just one date in the future, and then the notifications will be sent during that time. We would always recommend using the date range feature, which basically means that you can schedule a post over a longer period of time. So let's say I want to share this post between today and next week, Friday. I select 1 week, and our system will gradually suggest the post to the people that I've selected during this specific week. So not only are we creating variations based on text, on image, on groups and topic level, but also on time. So we don't want everyone to share the same post on the exact same day, on the exact same time. Okay, so if you vary with images, if you vary with text, and if you vary with time, you will get no comments on people saying, I am seeing too many of the same post during today or during this week, for example. Of course, you don't have to use a week. You can also say, I want to have, for example, 2 days or 3 days, or maybe 1 day and spread it over a couple of hours, for example. Just make sure not everyone is sharing at the exact same time, okay? If you have also business pages selected in your step 2, you can also use our business page scheduler for that. So if you want to have a specific time for a business page, you can just use the single date version here and then select a specific time in the future or any time during this date range. This only applies to the business pages that you have selected. The personal pages will always go through the date range here. Okay. So this is an easy way to separate those two if you want to schedule them at the same time. Then something that I think a lot of people haven't seen or skip is the more options option that you have here. And you basically have the same options from your default theme settings here, but you can change them per post, which means that you can change, for example, if you want to exclude the weekends, or you can change your default posting times. So let's say I schedule a post between today and next week, Friday. I don't want my colleagues to get notifications during Saturday and Sunday, during the weekends, but I also don't want them to get notifications in the evening. So then I say, okay, I only want our system to exclude the weekends, but also to only share or send notifications between 9 and 5. So you can change this per post. You can set your defaults in the theme settings, but you can change this per post. Let's say you do want to include the weekends for one post, you can just switch it off. And then for this post only, the weekends will not be, or the weekends will be included in this case. So that's really important. Another thing you can change is the post expiration, which basically means that you can let a post expire. So let's say you have an event content post. You don't want people to share an announcement of an event after the event has taken place, of course. So you can set, for example, a couple of hours or 2 days, for example. And then what will happen is that this post is shareable until 2 days after the end date. And afterwards, it will be removed from the mobile app from your colleagues, but it also will not be shareable anymore by email. So the post will actually expire. The default is set to never, which means that posts do not expire. If you want to make changes, then you can do it with the more options feature and do it manually per post. So really important. A final thing I want to show you in the third step is our reward system, which basically means that you can use our leaderboard to add some gamification to your program. Your colleagues can earn points for sharing posts, but also points for uploading content to the inspiration wall, which happens through our mobile app. You can make the changes, the reward changes in the third step of sending your post. So normally the default is set to 50. Let's say I have a really important post that I want to add more points, then I can, for example, change it to 150. And as soon as one of my colleagues shares this post, they get an additional 150 points added to their leaderboard. So for you as an admin, you have an overview of the leaderboard in the left menu bar, but also the people that are using the app can see in their app menu, there's also a leaderboard option, and they can see how well they are performing compared to their team or teammates. Um, we have clients that give away like bottles of wine or a lunch or a free, maybe even a weekend getaway we've seen. But you can do anything you like with this reward system, and it can really help to motivate your team. Give them a prize. Could be also something small, right? Doesn't have to be a weekend getaway, just to make it a little bit more fun. Um, and usually we have the prizes that go like a monthly prize or a bi-monthly prize or maybe a quarterly prize to make it a little bit more fun and to let the battles between the colleagues begin. So it can be really helpful, and I would really recommend you to start using the gamification part if you're not using it at this specific point. As soon as you created your post, you selected the people, you selected your time, you selected your rewards, then you can go to planning your post. Just click the button, and then the post, of course, will be shared to your team based on your settings. So just to review, what have we learned? We have to learn to use variations based on text. We have learned to use variation based on images. We've learned to use the topics to our advantage. If you select people, use groups, use the topics to differentiate between the different brand ambassadors, and especially spread your post over time. Use the date range feature, use the more options to specify your timing, and use the reward system to reward your team for their efforts that they are making. So really important to do that. On a final note, I will show you something that's a little bit more special that I haven't shown you in the first step, just to conclude this webinar. So I will go over to our new tab, and I will remove this post real quick. And something that's really special that we have added, but I think is not really used that much by a lot of our teams, is the extra fields options here. Basically, what you can do is that you can create different parameters in our system, and it kind of works the same way as it would in marketing email platforms, for example. So you can say, hi, first name, and then it will fill in the value of the person receiving the email. We can do the same trick, but then with your brand ambassador team. So basically what you can do is you can create your own parameters or personalization tokens, usually called in the email platforms, and add them to your post. So I created a couple, for example. So I have first name, last name, team name, address, phone number, email address. Let's say I create a post for a couple of account managers, and I want to conclude my post with call me at, and then I will add the phone number. So the idea here is that it will automatically fill in the phone number of the person that is sharing the post to his or her personal account. So it can really help to personalize your post a little bit more and to make sure the right phone number and the right email address or the right contact info is added to a post and on an individual level. So the idea here is that you can create these parameters in your team settings. So you can go to the team settings and then scroll down a little bit. And then you can add your parameters here in the team settings. So these are the 4 that I created, but you can add as many as you like and customize them to your own preference, of course. As soon as I start inviting new people to a postal, then they will be asked to fill in these 4 parameters as well. So not only first name, last name, but also their address, also the phone number, email address, and city. Or I can do it if I have existing people in my team, I can do it manually from the member overview. So then I go back to the left menu bar, go to members, and then I can decide, for example, to edit costs here. And his address is already filled in, but phone number isn't filled in, and email address and city also not. So this means that I can fill in his phone number here and then add it to the system. As soon as Kos shares one of my posts, which includes the extra fields, his phone number will be automatically added to his post only. The same applies to the other colleagues, of course, they will add their phone number as well. Um, if you have a lot of people in your team, it can, of course, be a little bit time consuming to fill this all in. So you can also do a download to Excel, fill everything in Excel, and then re-upload it to our system using the upload feature. And it will automatically update all of your members. So it's only really helpful for your existing team to add it just at one point. So just to give you an idea of one of the options that I think isn't really used that much in our system, but can be really helpful to personalize your post a little bit more as well. This concludes this webinar about our content creation. I hope I have shown you a lot of different things that maybe you didn't know just yet. Use them to your advantage. Please use the variations, use the topics, use the groups, and also use the date range features to really verify your post a little bit more, vary your post a little bit more, and make sure not everyone is sharing the exact same post. If you have any questions about this webinar, then please don't hesitate to contact our support team through our live chat or at support@apostlesocial.com. We're happy to help. Thank you for watching today. Bye bye.